Welcome to Machine Minds, where technology and humanity meet. I'm your host, Greg Terrusian, founder of Samson Rose, a recruiting and search business focused on the robotics and AI industries. The Machine Minds show is where we dive deep into the intricate world of robotics and artificial intelligence. As a staffing industry leader with a passion for the frontiers of technology, I'm pleased to be bringing you intimate conversations with the founders, investors, and trailblazers who are at the heart of the AI and robotics revolution. In each episode, we dig into their journeys, the applications of the products they're working on, and the breakthroughs that are shaping our future. Join us as we explore how these machine minds are transforming the way we live, work, and understand our world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about this amazing field, you'll learn something new with each episode. Let's delve into the extraordinary. Let's delve into machine minds. Hello and welcome to Machine Minds. I'm your host, Greg Terrusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Andy Williams, Executive Vice President of Sales for North America at Exotec. Thanks for being on the show today, Andy.
Hey, Greg. Great to be here. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. And yourself?
Doing well.
Good.
Just
Good.
Yeah, jumping into summer here. A couple weeks. So.
Where are you joining us from right now?
I live in Atlanta, and
Okay.
Kids are about to get out of school. I'm actually on Saturday going to Mexico with all the kids, so it's something fun to look forward to.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love that. I love Mexico. All right, let's jump into the episode. But look, before we get into Exotec's world of warehouse robotics and everything like that, I want to start with you. Do you remember, or can you go back to your first ever job and tell us about like what that taught you about sales and leadership and kind of the foundation of what you're doing these days?
Yeah. So my first job ever out of college, I worked in the wine business for a year, and it was really interesting. I learned a lot just about sales basics, how to work hard. I bought the wine industry, got to taste some pretty cool wines. It didn't really last that long. I didn't feel like my future was there. I started working for DHL pretty shortly after that. So DHL was a wonderful experience. Yeah, I started out just as a sales rep in the Atlanta area, and before too long, I got into national account management and started dealing with a lot of the big customers, and then into district sales management and taking on more of a leadership role. As it was still a relatively young person, so it was kind of a challenge, but definitely learned a lot. Made many mistakes, but thankful that I got a chance to do it. From there, I transitioned into the aerospace industry. And so I worked for a French aerospace company. I did business development and military sales in the North American market. And that's really what kind of got me into the systems world. I would say the technology systems world, and really the high tech market to begin with. Learned an incredible amount, had a lot of fun. And then, after being there for 3 or 4 years, I started my first job in the material handling business, doing business development and sales for Vonda. And that's what kind of got me off and running in this industry quite a long time ago now. But that was the beginning of the journey here. And it's been a good run. Yeah. So, spent some time at Vonda, Schaefer, and Robotics, CRO. And now here I am as the EVP of Sales in North America for Exotec.
That's amazing. Before I forget, I don't think I've probably told anyone this, and definitely not mentioned it on the show before, but before I got into recruiting, I have mentioned that I did a brief stint in sales, but one of the companies I interviewed with was in the high-end wine industry, and I didn't get the job, sadly, but it opened my eyes to that whole world, and I was kind of blown away that you can have this full lucrative career in that and people's wine portfolios and all this stuff. It's like,
yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. It's been interesting now that so we are somewhat focused on the wine and spirits industry as a robotics provider. We have customers that are in that business learning about it. And the wine and spirits industry is going through some big changes right now. Younger generations are trading off, not drinking as much. It's probably a good thing. But yeah, it's a super interesting business. I really appreciated my time there. It garnered an appreciation for wine and learned a lot. And so it's now interesting to look at it from a supply chain robotics perspective. It's a much different view.
Yeah. What drew you specifically into robotics and warehouse automation from just the broader industrial tech or aerospace industry?
Yeah, I got to this point where I was either going to have to, kind of remain in aerospace or go into the industrial warehouse automation space. And, I think especially at that time, I was just kind of a geek about systems. I just loved the technology part. I loved putting together the puzzle on the technology side, on the commercial side. And yeah, I saw just a really interesting landscape in warehouse robotics. Much of the same tailwinds that we've seen today, that we think are going to continue to propel this industry forward. I saw them at that point. And there's while defense and aerospace is fun, it's also extremely cyclical. It's just a much different type of business, and I think that to a great extent, the ability to control your own destiny if you make the right moves and work hard and build the right team, have the right strategy in warehouse automation robotics. It's fascinating. It's incredible. Since I was involved, this to watch these momentous occasions happen. Going from really legacy systems and kind of like the rise of Kiva, the sell of Kiva, all of these companies starting up, kind of on the tail end of that, and watching that some of them succeed and do real well, and some of them haven't, and why some have and haven't, and kind of looking at today's landscape with all of the technical advances that we have in place, and it's a fun place to be. Every day is exciting, always something new.
Yeah, it really is, especially with this time, this like recent time in the industry is very exciting. How does selling into this space differ from more traditional B2B tech or industrial sales, in your opinion?
It's so the first part is, by and large, it's a capital sale. I think that's still not completely the case for everyone. People are dipping their toes into robotics as a service, or some sort of SaaS CapEx variant. We're doing that a little bit, but it was still by and large a capital sale, and so that has all those characteristics that can be great. That can, it's big, long sales cycles, 18 to 24 months. Many times it's having the experience and savvy to really understand and even develop the customer's business problems with them collaboratively, help them understand it, form the basis for a project that ultimately you can help the customer solve a business problem, right? So it's extremely consultative, and I think that the challenge is to really have a depth of knowledge that lets you add a lot of value and perspective, and ultimately lead your own company, down a technology path that can solve, not only just individual project problems, but also meet the market where it is, and where it's headed, and make sure everything's on the right trajectory there too.
Yeah. You have to be a lot more involved and knowledgeable and embedded in it sounds like, than just selling a easy piece of software or one piece of equipment that anyone can integrate.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And there's it's a big ecosystem that's rapidly evolving. When I first started out in this business, there were a handful of warehouse automation players. Warehouse automation was more prevalent in Europe. That was the market. The classic tagline was just about the price of real estate, and price of labor, the differences. And it's really shifted over, the past 15, 20 years. Now North America is probably the number one market, or close to it in terms of growth. And the number of market entrants has just changed so dramatically, right? Lots of competition, lots of companies from Asia, lots of companies from the US, and in addition to all the companies from Europe. All these different types of sales channels and software arrangements. So lots of confusion, but also good opportunities, if you find the right angle and the right approach.
For sure. Let's switch gears and talk more about Exotec specifically. And for those who don't know, who aren't familiar with the company, what exactly do you build and offer? And what I'm curious as well, because obviously I've done a little bit of research, but what's unique about your Skypod system specifically? Yeah,
so we're a warehouse robotics company. And I think it's important to state it just that simply and clearly. We're not really involved in legacy automation with lots of conveyors or cranes or fixed infrastructure. We want to be the global number one in warehouse robotics. And warehouse robotics generally as a category differs quite a bit from legacy automation, right? It's based upon flexibility, being able to define functionalities from software, like, fewer moving pieces, parts, et cetera, et cetera. For our Exotec Skypod system, we come to the market in various ways, but we act as an integrator or work through other integrators sometimes. And one of the consistent themes is that our Skypod system is in every project, right, that we do. What's unique about it, we have really one moving part. We can provide extremely dense storage, very high throughput, this unparalleled flexibility with the way that we can manipulate items and packages. And we do that all with this one moving part, which is a robot. And so we actually had to kind of invent a new product category for it, mobile ASRS, because it's not just an automated storage and retrieval system, but it also has the functionalities of an AMR. So it can go from any point to any other point on the ground, right? And provides this kind of complete connectivity. And what that means to customers and the impact that it has is that not only can we do those kind of base level requirements in an arguably unparalleled way, just in terms of raw performance per square foot, but we also have the ability to add in these kind of next generation functionalities, right? So you can imagine a world in e-commerce where, if my goal is to be able to deliver to the whole entire population of the United States within 4 hours or less from the time the order's placed, then, I have to be able to rapidly update priorities. I have to be able to, accept an order into the system, finish it into an exact right-sized package in just a matter of minutes. And so that kind of reactivity, that dynamic capability is what lets us really affect a lot of benefit to our customers.
Nice. So would you say that is your primary differentiator? Because obviously the market has a variety of players in the warehouse automation space, but you guys seem to stand out in that specifically.
Yeah, I think we, if you look at our business, kind of the verticals where we really excel, it's remarkably broad, so we have some really smart folks at Exotec. And one of the things we did, we had our first gen system, started in 2017. And we learned a lot. It was tremendously successful. And we learned an incredible amount and released our next gen system this year. But what you see is the creation of the requirements for the product based upon all those vertical markets where we've had success. So in other words, it's a really broad set of use cases. So we can handle full cases in a system. We can handle each pick in a system. We can pick directly to order. We can do full sequencing for mixed SKU pallets. And that lets you, have this really value-adding solution and everything from, like I mentioned, wine and spirits, grocery retail, industrial spare parts, apparel, e-commerce, retail, and we've come about it in a very smart way, and it's that flexibility. A lot of, if we rewind to kind of traditional automation, I remember in the past where we had to not only design this probably crane-based or shuttle-based ASRS system, but all of the subsystems that went around it, conveyors and other things that produced just an incredible number of constraints, and they were finely engineered based upon whatever we had designed and developed. And now, I think a big part of our appeal is that we've, to a great extent, removed those constraints or vastly diminished them, and provided customers a chance to not have to be so precise. Some of the biggest successes we've had recently are where customers just honestly didn't know if over the course of the next 4 to 5 years in a given facility their business was going to be 80% case or 80% each pick, right? Or if it was going to be predominantly e-commerce with a line or two per order, or if it's going to be predominantly wholesale, where it could have been just, massive trucks full of products going into another distribution center. And so when you come in and that's part of your kind of base understanding, right? That we need this incredibly flexible solution that can expand, into all these dimensions. I think that's been a very well received attribute for Exotec, right? And lots of appeal, kind of facing the uncertainty in the future.
Yeah. Seems super flexible. Well, I'm curious, what does like onboarding for a new company, new client look like, or like when they initially engage you or your system to actually it being fully up and running? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. It can vary a little bit, but typically, we have on my team, I have the business development folks, the sales people, and also our system engineering team. So it's usually a combination of those folks that participate in the kind of early stage consulting, and really zeroing in on the business problem. What's the problem we're trying to solve? And then ultimately, helping customers through their kind of budgeting process and, validating ROI, all of that sort of thing, and bringing it to a contract. And so we do all of that engineering, that the design work, not only for the robots, but the whole entire software ecosystem. You're usually plugging into the warehouse management system, could be an order management system, and other types of systems, right? So getting all of the software nailed down. And, at the time we execute the project, we transition it over to our deploy organization. So that's another engineering and project management team, electrical, mechanical, software, et cetera, that goes in and takes it to the next level of detail, ultimately installs the system, make sure they commission it correctly, meets all the performance that we promised we deliver to the customer, gets it up to speed. And then, after that, it's kind of transitions to our customer success and maintain teams that we monitor every robot movement globally 24/7, 365. So, big part of our success has been the 150, odd projects we've delivered. They work at a very high level. They're very, very reliable, and that's enabled us to scale quickly. And certainly part of that story has also been the fact that we're a very product-driven organization. All of our systems run on the same set of configurable software for Skypod, which is critically important. That's probably the highest risk area. But we've put a lot of effort into being a product company that has this wide range of configuration that can meet a lot of different business cases. And so we have a solid, ground to stand on. We're not doing all the custom engineering. That's harder to do.
Yeah, that's great. And how do you guys think about, or how do you personally think about ROI from the customer's perspective? Like, how do you frame that during this enterprise sale? It sounds like solution selling, right? You're selling the whole solution, your team is, and working with them. But how do you think about the ROI?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and I think a big part of our task as a consultative, sales group is evolving that discussion. Certainly in the past, it was a more restricted conversation a lot of times for people, right? Rewind the clock 15, 20 years ago and say option A is I'll just do it manually, right? Or option B, I can do this project. And option B has an investment, and there are traditional FTE count, based like return on investment that's done. The game has changed a lot. One thing that's changed is you oftentimes can't find enough labor, so that's not an option anyway, right? And if you want to be able to get certain types of inventory through the facility, so you're going to have to do something, and certainly those traditional metrics are accounted for, but more and more driven by the Amazon effect and many other effects, it's additional things are being taken into consideration. So, just as an example, we have had quite a bit of success in the spare parts business, and whether that's been automotive or aerospace, industrial, plumbing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that is based upon this ability to get these orders out the door almost instantaneously, which for their business means the difference between getting the order or not, right? So that can be part of the ROI. We've done for part of the world's largest food and beverage and CPG companies, a project that was largely based, the ROI justification was largely based purely on the transportation savings. So, whereas they were previously having to do 2 truck stops to every convenience store, our solution enabled them to do just one in a reverse stop sequence. And another thing that's become part of that equation is packaging, right? And making sure that when we're shipping e-commerce or what have you, that it's done in an environmentally friendly way, and that it's also in the smallest package possible, because that translates to savings for the company. And those are just a few categories. So to see the main story being that traditionally, it was extremely conservative evaluation of the business case. Those old school metrics still exist, and there are new ones. And there is this general lack of labor availability that is a tailwind that keeps pushing the industry along as well.
Yeah. That's a huge part of it. It's kind of like accelerating adoption for the customers as well, right? So Exotec is a French robotics unicorn and obviously made a big leap into the US market. What's the story behind launching and scaling the North American arm?
Yeah, we came into the market a few years ago. And about 4 years ago, and I think it was recognized that it's just a massive market, and that ultimately, if you want to achieve your goal of being the global number one, then you have to have a really big and aggressive presence in North America. So, Exotec invested and bringing on the team, bringing on the talent, and we started off with kind of a market entry strategy, and primarily we were working through integrators, and that was successful. We got off to a pretty nice start. And then within the past, couple of years, we've really been doubling our growth, year after year. A lot of that has just been, blocking and tackling. I would say we've sold projects, we've delivered them, they've worked well, so we've had satisfied customers. And as we've grown into these larger clients and bigger projects, we've been doing most of those ourselves as the integrator, which I think lets us add more value, have a deeper understanding, more ownership of the success. And as I mentioned, it's all been based on this product mentality, which has been critical for us. So, we know, and in fact, we can contractually guarantee that the system will work really well. And that's been, anytime you're looking to scale, that's a prerequisite. I think, if you have this variability from project to project, it's just not possible. And I think that's a pitfall that some of our competitors, kind of a trap they fell into maybe.
Is that because, would you say that's because they're like recreating the wheel each time they get a new customer and do a new implementation instead of, like you mentioned, everything being built on the same software platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, if you let the market just dictate everything you do, I think it can happen relatively easily. It takes an incredible, it's a lot harder to do this from a product standpoint at the beginning, to really define the requirements, to have a product that, no matter what this industry vertical is, it's going to work well. And that software is the same amongst these verticals, and it's just, the configuration can be changed. So it's difficult to do it at the beginning, but once it's done, it's the basis for scaling. And you don't have the fear about it anymore. But yeah, the traditional automation world as well, including some of the companies that I worked for, a large part of the strategy was to, in fact, to do everything in a completely customized way. And to come to these customers and say, hey, we'll do anything you want, and that can be valuable, right? And that can be appealing, but it doesn't form a solid basis for scaling, and it's been a learning experience, so it's like.
I've heard about a lot of the companies that have had a similar approach, or the customers, shall I say, that have bought robots or systems with a similar approach, and then their point person leaves, or the person internally who is managing it leaves, and then because it's custom, they end up not being able to maintain it and work. They've got like their little own robot graveyard in the corner, and hesitant to bring on any other new products.
But our two founders had GE DNA, and they both worked at General Electric, and I think that served them well. Even though they were somewhat new to the robotics warehouse market at the time, that discipline about how to follow a good product creation process, how to document everything, how to go step by step in a really rigorous manner that ensures high quality, not moving from one step to the next until it's done, right? That is difficult, requires a lot of work, but it can prevent that situation that you just said, where you have that tribal knowledge, right? And certainly been a part of so many of those projects in the past. I can remember installing big conveyor systems. The PLC engineers, for whatever reason, weren't available anymore. They weren't with us anymore. And then all of a sudden, it's this big, wow, there's a lot of code. No one knows what it does. And whether that's conveyors or robotics, there's certainly been a lot of that that's happened.
I bet.
In recent history.
I bet.
Yeah.
What's been one of the, I don't know if any come to mind, but one of the hardest sales cycles that you've helped go through and close at Exotec, and if there's anything specifically that you learned from that process?
Yeah. One of the more interesting ones was probably one of the world's largest food and beverage companies, and just so traditional, large engineering organization, large supply chain organization, right? Learning how to, kind of change their perspective, right, as it relates to warehouse robotics, seeing things from a different standpoint is very difficult. There are so many stakeholders. A lot of times there are consultants involved that can help you, hurt you, and building your message in a way that they'll understand, and that's meaningful and impactful to their business, right? And that's the challenge. There were lots of different sub organizations and inside this big organization. But that was a really, really, really fun one because I think it's just so impactful. It was the first time that they were ever able to bring all of these disparate business units into the same facility and have the chance to do a lot of these more ambitious initiatives, like deliver one pallet to a store instead of multiple, and to be able to do e-commerce from the same facility. You could do all these other things, and helping them shape the business case, really understand the value that it could bring, and what it could mean to them from a competitive advantage standpoint. It was exciting. Ultimately being able to realize that with them was pretty cool. And a big team on our side as well that helped pull it off.
I guess that's how one of the ways that you guys build trust in an industry like this, because obviously the space historically, I think from a majority standpoint, right? I can't remember the stats, but from how many warehouses and logistics facilities there are in the US, there's such a small percentage that actually utilize automation, right? And they're slower to adopting tech. So you guys must have a great way of building trust and authority with these customers in the space.
I think so. It's part of it, I think, as well, is just having a really focused strategy, and really understanding what you can do and who your customers are. So for us, a lot of those manual warehouses, that are in those statistics, they might be, a 25,000 square foot warehouse, right? That's really small and and that's not really our target customer. So I think really understanding who your customers are, is important, and just having a really, really focused way to reach them. But it's certainly a process. I think, we've evolved into this, strategy where business development and marketing is also an important part of what we do. So trying to educate the market, help define what the business case should be, helping customers understand what they could achieve, at this broad level, raising awareness, getting increasing levels of interaction at the industry level. It's all part of the equation, I think, to eventually having some success. It's a super competitive market, and I think if you don't do all of those things well, then you probably won't succeed, because there are other companies are.
Very good point. Yeah, it's a very mature structure, especially incorporating business development and marketing as well, and realizing or recognizing and pushing the importance of that is huge.
Yeah, agree.
So I wanted to get your perspective on the future of the tech in this space in general as well, and where you see warehouse robotics evolving over the next sort of 5 years from your unique vantage point.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I think in general, I think over the next 5 years, and probably over the course of the next 10 years, in warehouse robotics especially, and then perhaps industrial robotics more generally, I think specialized robotics like ours will continue to deliver the most value, what do I mean? Well, just kind of think about it like this, our specialized robotics can probably deliver, 400% of the performance for a quarter of the cost compared to like a current state humanoid robot, right? And even beyond that, it's designed very specifically for the business. So I think that we'll continue to see the evolution of specialized and purpose-built robotics. Some of the physical or geometrical issues, that are there, there's only so much you can do, right? I mean, you can only fit so much product inside of a given amount of space, and get so much throughput out of it. So some of those, like with our Skypod system, the bots are the same size as a tote or a carton. You can't get them much smaller. You can't get them much denser. But what you can do is you can achieve absolutely phenomenal success on the software side. And I think that's where you see a lot of continued evolution, right? These systems are getting more complex. The software is getting more sophisticated. And the ecosystem around the heartbeat, if the heartbeat's the Skypod, the other systems that connect to it, and also the other software systems, what products should I have in the system to begin with? How many days on hand should I have? Can I use AI to help with those things? Can I use AI to help with a lot of the vision tasks? I mean, certainly there's so much vision and image data in our business that we do, with our picking robots, et cetera, et cetera. We certainly see a lot of application there. But I think just continued evolution probably on that front. And, certainly I think we'll start to see some probably niche use cases for humanoid robotics. But I think in the warehouse specifically, for the foreseeable future, it's just the dollars and cents won't quite be there. That equation won't make sense. But eventually it'll be even more collaboration between the two.
How do you see AI shifting the landscape, both for your product, but you also talked about like the software as a whole, but then like the customer decision process and things like that?
I think a lot remains to be seen. It almost, I guess like in many other industries, it seems like AI is more of a collaboration tool, more of an assistance tool. So ways to get more efficient, ways to get better, ways to make decisions more quickly or more accurately, and that certainly seems to be a trend. So there's that layer of AI. I think that the big data part of AI is really rapidly evolving, and companies can use that as a big time strategic weapon to know, better than ever before, what products I need when, and how much of those should I have? Can I get a lot of new additional sales by being really smart with having AI predict trends and that sort of thing? You also have, on the large language model side, the vision side of things, especially. There are cameras everywhere in our systems. You've got NVIDIA and others doing some pretty creative things there with using AI with video, and I think that's going to continue to have a big impact. There are lots of cool things you can do. Ways to just continuously improve every part of the operation, with enhanced vision technology. So I think we'll see some continued development there as well.
Awesome. Is there a part of the industry that you think's overhyped right now, or even misunderstood?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the humanoid one probably was.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
bit overhyped or maybe misunderstood for a little bit. Hey, it's exciting. I think we all get it. It seems completely groundbreaking, and I think that appeal for a bot that could do everything from be an assistant at the house to go to the manufacturing line. There's no doubt in the future, it's going to be a pretty amazing thing for us all to witness. And, in some circumstances, like in our case for the foreseeable future, it's not like, humanoids don't have gears for hands and feet, and they can't, they're not as big as a toad, right? I mean, it's just that there's going to be a pretty heavy reliance on these specialized robots that can do things more efficiently, more cheaply, and in a very, catered way to meet certain requirements. But ultimately, it just continues to evolve so rapidly. And, I think we're going to start to see the incorporation of more and more use cases. And we'll see how it evolves together. But yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, we've got a great place for human operators to interact with specialized robots and create a lot of great jobs and just be able to get a lot more done with the same amount of people, and to be able to have maybe leveled up types of jobs, where instead of doing the physical labor yourself, you've got to be able to support the software or the hardware on robots that can do it for you. So that's sort of thing, kind of an evolution and a change.
Like that. Want to get your opinion on sales and team insights as well, because obviously hiring and recruiting is something very important to me. That's what I do day in and day out.
Sure.
And you've obviously built very high performing, high functioning teams. Right. In your opinion, what makes a great sales hire for this space specifically? And are there intangibles that you look for in your interview process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are a range of profiles that can do well. Certainly the profile that begins with this more engineering oriented background, so kind of comes from the technical space, it can be a really good one. I think at the end of the day, you have to have a certain level of technology savvy, consulting savvy, et cetera, to be successful. But in terms of the intangibles you look for, the things that I've truly seen just stand out time and time again, regardless of someone's personal orientation or their personality, or just kind of whether they're more naturally technically or say consulting oriented, is just kind of a competitive streak. People that work hard, they want to win. They're very open to change and adapting themselves. They're good team players, and they're creative, they're smart, they're problem solvers. And so in that sense, they're always able to kind of adapt and overcome any obstacle in their way. Because it's like, putting a Lego together on one hand, and in many ways it's fun. Yeah. It's kind of this engineering system oriented thing, but, having that broader perspective and, enough intellectual curiosity to understand the customer's industry in a very in-depth way, or, to be able to understand their problems in a way where you can impact such a powerful change. You have to be passionate, and you have to have that drive. And I think that's probably some of the most important characteristics of seen.
I like that. Thank you. How do you keep your team sharp and focused, especially during like these long sales cycles or high stakes deals?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I can't say it's completely easy. I think a big part of it is just having the right team members. And above and beyond that, having done it for so long myself, I know what it's like. I know it's hard. I think, on one hand, demanding a really high level of performance, but also having a great respect for everyone's personal and family life and prioritizing that to a great extent. I'm just trying to, take care of them in every way that you can. And I think just filtering out the noise, trying to stay very, very focused. We have a weekly sales meeting every week, and today I canceled it. We just didn't have as much to do. It wasn't going to be as productive, right? So let's just stay. If something not going to be productive, let's don't do it. And I think that kind of mentality to just cut through the noise, stay laser focused on what we're trying to do, and provide
efficiency.
Yeah, and recognizing that it's a marathon. You have to have that longer term perspective. Right. And, you can't measure results over the course of 6 months, all the time. It's got to be a little bit more patient.
That's experience speaking right there.
Yeah.
With that, how, and any advice that you'd give to someone early in their sales career who wants to get into the robotics or automation space?
Yeah, I think that if you like it, if you think you'd be interested, number one, just go for it. Get in anywhere you can. Get into any of these good businesses that you can get into. Leverage your network, and whether that's in an engineering role or in some on the sales side or deploy side, just find a way to get in and experience a little bit of it. But I think you've got to have ownership. We have so many different types of people coming into our organization here. Lots of the folks we've got a lot of younger people that are recent grads from Georgia Tech. People with 20, 30 years of experience from a wide range of industries, including this one and everything in between. So just having a perspective that you can come in, can get started, but if you want to get into sales, there's a space for you. We've grown some 40 people 3 years ago in North America, around 150. We've taken people from in maintenance group and are now sales engineers. So I think, having some ownership of what you want to do, just communicating what, in a good, healthy company, I think everybody will help each other get there and do what you want to do. And beyond that, just, you have to, I think, kind of control your own destiny. But if that's really your passion, then learn everything you can about it. Network with everyone that's involved in that area that you can, figure out where you could add value or what you think you'd be good at doing, and just find a way, and it's kind of back to, we said that there's characteristics, about the successful people, but typically just finding a way to become more intellectually curious or knowledgeable, or, to work a little bit harder or more efficiently, and just figuring out how to solve the problem. And it's kind of that way on, I think, the sales side for warehouse robotics too. If you want to get in it, just, take a risk, figure out a way to get involved with one of the companies, and then from there, and just kind of be really open and honest about what you want to do and take control of your own destiny.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We're about to wrap, but are you okay with a quick lightning round?
Yeah, let's go for
from
it.
you.
Let's go for it.
Okay, cool. What's a robotics trend that you're bullish on? I know what you're skeptical about.
Yeah, I would say that, high density, high throughput, flexible, specialized robotics. I'm very bullish on that.
Nice. Yeah, always a space for that. What's one thing that you wish more customers understood?
I wish more customers understood how faster and more accurate service can help them win more market share and win more business themselves, and not look oftentimes through as much of an ROI based lens.
Yeah. It's the big picture, right?
The big picture, improving. Yeah, how do you improve the bottom line? How do you win market share? It's an enabler for that to happen.
Love that. Do you have a most memorable career win?
I think at the time, Walmart was a pretty important one back in the day. We won some big projects with IKEA, Kohl's, McLean, Pepsi, and lots of those big Fortune 500 companies where it can be really difficult to pull those off, and it's definitely memorable each and every time.
Love that. Do you have a favorite leadership lesson that you've learned the hard way?
Yeah, one of my, I think more recent, kind of favorite leadership lessons is this concept of two-way and one-way doors that I can't take credit for, but originally coined by Jeff Bezos. And, I think especially in a scale-up environment, knowing the difference between the two, right? And when you have a chance to move quickly and realize that, hey, we if it doesn't work, we can reverse course. We can change later. And having that, somewhat, I would say completely fearless, but, calculated, savvy attitude about when to take risks and when to move quickly, and how the benefits of that can outweigh this overly, let's say, just pragmatic or, analytical approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, what's one book or resource that you often recommend?
One of my favorite books for technology startups or technology scale ups is a book called Crossing the Chasm. And the basic concept is how to bring a new technology to market, and what does it mean to have your first commercial customers, and does that serve as a basis for scaling the product up in a large way? So is the end result of having those first customers that you have a rock solid, commercialized, industrialized product that you're ready to make hundreds or thousands of, right? And understanding the dynamics involved there and the different ways that you have to structure your business for those different phases, and to really understand when you have crossed the chasm and when you have not. Because if you move into one of the phases without having completed the previous step, then that could potentially be the death of your business. And that's not good.
That's awesome. Well, look, Andy, thank you so much for your time, your insight, sharing your experiences and about Exotec. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad. Where can people learn more about Exotec and yourself, or connect with you and follow along?
Yeah, I'm probably the easiest way. Just go to our LinkedIn profile or exotec.com, and everything's linked to exotec.com. And feel free to shoot me or anyone else on the team an email at any time. We're available, and we would love to talk with you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing all of your expansions continue and new product lines hopefully in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Greg, thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Andy.
All right, take care.